The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com to learn more about their innovative design and when you can get your hands on their next custom drop. And by Skybreed Discs, a top online disc retailer with all of the modern amenities. Pictures of every disc on the website, box shipping for every disc so nothing gets messed up in transit, very low flat rate shipping with free shipping over $50 orders. If you use code WORLDS21, you'll get 10% off of your order, and they're a preferred partner of Ledgestone and the Great Lakes Open. They've got a ton of inventory. Go check it out, skybreeddiscs.com. Welcome to a live edition of the Upshot podcast. We are somewhere near the first tee, I guess, here, and kind of the spectator area at the Fort, where we just watched the MPO finish up here. And wow, it was quite a battle, and we've got a lot to talk about. Looking forward to talking about it with you. Hi, I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined by Josh Mansfield, and we're live on Twitter Spaces, so we're trying this out. We'll see how it goes. Josh, let's just quickly run down where we're at with the scores. We've got some surprises. If you haven't been watching, you've been missing out for sure. In MPO right now, it's five-time world champion Paul McBeth up at the top of the leaderboard. He is at 31 under after a hot 10 under round today, including just an absolutely electric stretch starting on hole 6, where he got back-to-back birdies, followed it up with an eagle on 9 that could not have been any better played than it was, and then 6 birdies in the back 9, no bogeys in that stretch, and he's now out in front. Nate Sexton had a chance to match him, but his upshot on the 18th was really just well too far to the right, hit the tree, rolled out of bounds, and he ends up bogeying and actually missed the lead card after being the leader for most of the day. Up on the lead card, it's James Conrad at 30 under, tied with Kevin Jones and Calvin Heimberg. That is your top 4. Then, as I said, Nate Sexton at 29 under, 2 strokes back of McBeth. Chris Dickerson had a great round, 9 under round today. He is at 28 under, moving up 5 spots. And then it's Ricky Wysocki and Mason Ford, 5 strokes back at 26 under. Josh, we got a lot of disc golf watching in today. What struck you the most about what we saw out there?
As comfortable as Paul looked, I think the one that really surprised me, not even necessarily surprised me, but stood out was Kevin. Kevin looked fantastic. His shots looked clean, but above all, his attitude and the way that he was just carrying himself on the course and his confidence was exceptional.
Well, and you know, it's pretty amazing to watch McBeth through the middle of that round as well. I think we caught up with him around hole 9, actually. And his tee shot was sitting in the perfect position, and then he threw a fabulous forehand he got closer to the basket than anyone else, and they were all putting for birdie or par, and so he was the last to putt, and he just had a 5-footer for eagle. And then just continued from there. I mean, he made a couple of small mistakes late in the back 9, but was mostly perfect, and birdied the last 3. Really, really, I mean, entered a level from Paul that we haven't seen yet. We got a chance to catch up with McBeth after the round. Here's what Paul had to say. Listen in.
Paul, we just walked through a mob of people. Now you've had a few seconds after thinking about the round. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. I was extremely nervous today. Pretty shaky early. I was able to knock down the birdie on the first hole. So I thought that was going to knock off those nerves, but no, they came up even harder on holes 2, 3, and 4. So able to get that under control and just play.
You really got it going in the middle of the round and towards the back 9. I mean, we watched you throw 8 or 9 shots in a row that were just dead perfect. You had the eagle. What got you in that rhythm that we've seen you get close to, but maybe not find this week yet?
I got into the backup on 9, and I peeked at scores and saw that the lead card wasn't playing that well. And that kind of gave me a lot more hope than I had at that point because I wasn't doing that well. You know, started out birdie, bogey, and that's not how I want to start, especially on this course. So checked the scores, saw that I still had a really good chance to make a move this round and not have to wait till tomorrow, and I was able to step up and eagle 9 and then just continue to push forward there, even with some other hiccups on the course. but I was able to stay away from the bogeys on that back half.
In terms of nerves, how are you feeling going into tomorrow?
I'm good now. I'm good now. But when you ask me in the morning when I wake up, that'll be a different answer. But once I get into that rhythm, then they kind of go away until the putt on the last hole or the shot on the last hole.
Are you surprised to be at the top of the leaderboard right now?
Out here on these courses, no. I haven't played great. I feel like my putting's been pretty shaky, but I've been knocking down the ones that I need to and when I need to. So I feel like that's all that matters. I think there's a lot of opportunities on these courses. I think the scores at Mulligan were a little bit lower than anticipated, but I had two pretty solid rounds out here so far.
What do you ascribe the lower scores at Mulligan's to? Because, not too long of a course, but we didn't see stuff much over 10.
Yeah, I think, the second round we were there was extremely windy. That played a big factor. But more so just the bunkers and greens and OBs and kind of where the baskets are played. There's only about, I think, 7 trees that come into play on that course. That's not counting the trees that have mandos on them. So it's not like there's elements there that we're battling in the sky. It's more so how we land them and where we place them. And when the baskets are on these hillsides or right next to water, it's a little bit hard to keep them in bounds. I think a lot of the top players had double digits in birdies, but just couldn't avoid the bogeys. So
what was the biggest shot that you made today that you feel was the biggest one?
There was a lot. I think every shot on the back half was a big shot. But if you were to look at the video, it's probably the shot on 18 to put it there and take the lead. And they were at 30, and James and Kevin were right there too at 29, and they ended up birdieing that hole. But Nate was at 30 at that point. So if I put that shot up and down from across the lake, then I was guaranteed at least a tie for first.
What's your game plan going into tomorrow?
Same thing I did today on the back half, but clean up those bogeys, try to get comfortable early. I think that's a big key, is getting comfortable early. I haven't done it yet on this course, but that's a big factor for me.
Is going for 6 any additional pressure for you?
Oh, yeah. Each one gets more pressure. Each one has more pressure. The first one, to be honest, I think was the easiest one because, usually when you win the first, there's not expectations behind it. And I know there's some players out here that are expected to win, and you can see that some of them are struggling a bit.
All right, thanks very much.
So there you go. Paul McBeth with us after finishing up his 10-under hot round. And classic Paul there at the end, by the way. You see some players out there with high expectations that aren't playing so well. It's just an absolute classic. Do you think, obviously he's got the lead, is this his to lose at this point, or do you think we've seen enough from some other players playing better over the course of other rounds that you think that it's still kind of anyone's game?
It's absolutely anybody's game on this lead card. I think, his 10 down today was exceptional, but James shot a 9-under. Kevin had an 8-under. Calvin's 4-under today was definitely lackluster. But the other 3 guys that are up there on the lead card with Paul, or the 2 guys, I guess, with Paul, all had hot rounds today, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't shoot another hot round tomorrow. One really bad hole, one really bad mistake can tank someone's dreams, and I think that that's the case for tomorrow as well.
Well, what a round for Nate Sexton. It kind of gets marred at the end. He gets back-to-back bogeys on 17 and 18, and honestly, it feels like a bit of a trend. You look at Nate Sexton, he had such a great round going at Mulligan's on I think day 1. Was it day 1? And then, a couple late bogeys. And then we see the same thing out here today. In a way, it feels to me like what we've seen from Paige Pierce, where she's pulled away, extended a lead, and then gives it back towards the back end of the course. And, we talked about it on the broadcast earlier. 6 over on hole 18 this week. 6 over. Think about that. I want to see the graphic. She's whatever. Let's quickly hit the FPO scores. Catrina Allen, 13 under, leads Paige Pierce by 1 stroke. Paige is at 12 under. Lisa Fakis at 6 under. Kristen Tatar at 4 under. That's your lead card. But think about this. Paige Pierce on all other holes is 18 under. And on hole 18, she's 6 over. That's crazy. And, it just feels like you have to maintain that focus all the way through. You can't start thinking about the next day. You can't start thinking about what could be. Nate Sexton said after round 1, he started thinking about what it would be like to shoot an 1100 rated round, and it kind of threw him off his game. He missed a short putt on 17 and then went in the water on 18. So, wow. I mean, this Fort course, by the way, it just has so many ways to blow you up immediately. And I've been saying it all week. 18 is going to deliver fireworks tomorrow, almost guaranteed. I would be shocked if we didn't have a 1, 2, maybe 3 stroke lead for somebody in the balance going into a hole where you can easily take a double bogey.
Normally when you see, by hole 17 or 16, someone who's 3 strokes difference, you kind of think, well, this might be kind of the end. That's absolutely not the case here. I think that anybody within 5 strokes of the lead, and that being said, I mean, if second place is 5 strokes back, I still don't think this tournament's over until it's done. Though those holes definitely have the capacity to deliver an explosive finish. And I don't care if the lead is up 5 strokes. I'm still watching at 16 because I think there's still a lot of golf left to play.
How many sick moments did we have today, by the way? Sarah Hokum hits an ace on 18 at Mulligan's, the only one of the week. James Conrad steps up to 16 at the Fort and almost aces it again. He almost aced it again. I mean, he came incredibly close. And then we watched Ezra Aderhold hit the basket, tick a chain, and then roll out of bounds on 16. Josh, what is going on? I mean, it's unbelievable. This is some really high-level disc golf.
Well, I think one thing that's been great about the Fort is the spectator area at the end of the course. 16, you're kind of looking out and you get to watch them throw over your head onto the island, the island green right next to the pond. 17, they're throwing across the water from the dock, and then you watch them throw back to you at 18. And so it's just, I think that's something that this course has done really well, is set up for a spectacular finish for spectators that deliver those kind of moments to watch.
Well, I mean, I don't even know. You could dig so far down the leaderboard today to have interesting stories. I mean, Chris Dickerson has a 7 birdie stretch in the middle of his round. He finishes at 9 under, 1 bogey on the day. Ezra Aderhold, unfortunately, having a pretty slow back 9. He drops down the leaderboard a bit. Emerson Keith got a little cold in the middle of his round, took a double bogey on hole 9, fell back, and ended up finishing just even par today, which, is just not going to get it done. And he cooled off. I mean, it's that simple. He cooled off. He still hit a couple of putts, but, he wasn't as clean off the tee. He didn't find a green in regulation much. He was only 50% finding circle 2 in regulation. So, I think it's pretty much out of reach at this point for Emerson Keith. Eagle McMahon battled back today. He had a 9 under. Good score, but he's still way back. He's 9 strokes back as well, tied for 14th. Let's go down to the cut line really quick and take a look at some names, folks that missed the cut. A few surprises down there, to be honest. Bradley Williams, Chandler Fry, Tim Barham, Cade Filamahala, who we thought maybe would come out here and play great. Not that there should be expectations on such a young player to make the cut and the cash at Pro Worlds, but perhaps a surprise. Cam Messerschmidt.
Ben Callaway.
Ben Callaway, absolutely.
Zach Melton. But Zach Melton's been dealing with an injury, I believe.
True. Brian Earhart finished 8 over par. Right now, tied for 143rd. Not sure what's going on with Earhart, but very, very rough round and week for him. These courses, they have teeth. They really have teeth. And as we look ahead to tomorrow, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you've got 6 players within 3 strokes of the lead, and we know that means that you can make a push. I mean, how many people on the lead card return for tomorrow? Just one.
Calvin
Heimberg. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And so, wow, Macbeth somehow takes the lead. I still can't believe it a little bit. Not that we should be surprised, but he's been hanging around. But coming into today, it looked like he would have to really do something special, and well, I guess he did.
Yeah, he did. And I think the thing that really got to us that we didn't see coming is that all of the lead card was pretty slow. None of them had a spectacular round. Calvin maintained and was able to stay up there, but it was still only a 4 under par effort. So that wasn't anything. Nate Sexton 4 under par. And then we've got Ezra Aderhold 2 under, and like we mentioned, Emerson Keith coming in even. That is not going to cut it for the lead card. And so Paul's 10 under was excellent, but if the lead card had played the 7 to 8 range, Paul is still just outside the lead card. He's not quite there yet. And so I think it's noteworthy that while Paul played incredible, our lead card fell apart, and that could still happen tomorrow, and is a big reason I think tomorrow's going to be exciting.
Do you think that the pressure of the spectators, which, by the way, Josh and I watched the chase card for much of the day because Macbeth was heating up, James Conrad was playing really well, Kevin Jones was playing really well, and the lead card, chase card had maybe 25 people following the card. The lead card had hundreds. I mean, packed, like you go along the fairway packed with people. Do you think that played a role in their weaker rounds, the pressure of all of the spectators?
It definitely had to contribute in a sense, and maybe not even necessarily the pressure, but I think that perhaps one big thing that may come with it is that you now have to take into consideration, you got to wait for the cameramen to get in place. You got to wait for the spectators to move and get in place. That disrupts the flow of your round. And so even if it's not the pressure of the eyes on you, it's the sense that you're not just getting to play a round of golf, that you are playing a round of Worlds golf on the lead card, and that just can... It can get in your head. It can throw with you. It can mess with your vibe. If you can't get a rhythm going, then that's a big reason that a lot of people, I think, shoot poor rounds, and probably part of the reason our leaderboard did as well.
I'm going to be honest. I think Nate Sexton, the pressure on 18 got to him. I mean, he really threw a terrible shot for his second shot after throwing a good tee shot. He was in good position to attack for a birdie, and he didn't even really come close. In fact, he may have gotten lucky to hit the tree, which kind of pushed him a little further down the fairway. Otherwise, he might have gone out of bounds even earlier. So we'll see. I mean, he really played well most of the round, but 3 late bogeys kind of cooled him off. But he went 100% from inside the circle, hit a couple of circle 2 putts, and, just at times didn't seem like the first 2 holes, he sort of shorted his forehand, and then he sawed it off on 18. There was just a few times when it seemed like, that pressure that Macbeth talked about got to him, just as it would get to anyone in that kind of position. And the pressure tomorrow is going to be just immense. I mean, there's no room for error. It's not like anybody has a 5-stroke lead and they can kind of cruise. You have to execute shot after shot after shot. And that's going to be just as true in FPO. Maybe there's not quite as many players up in the mix, but Paige, Pierce, Catrina, Allen are going to go back and forth tomorrow, and it's going to be wild to watch.
Yeah, I think the thing that we've talked about the entire time is going to hold true tomorrow as well, that you just cannot take double bogeys. Sexton had a bad ending to his round, the 3 bogeys in 5 holes, but at the end of the day, they weren't doubles. And I want to highlight one stat that's really important right here. Let's compare Kevin Jones and Nate Sexton. Kevin's round, 8 under par, a very good round, but not unachievable for most players in the top 10 right now. That's the 10 under round is pretty exceptional. 8 under, I think, is doable for most of these players. Kevin didn't putt as well as Nate Sexton. Only 83% from C1X and 20% from C2 versus the 100% and 22% from Nate Sexton. The big stat that maybe we haven't been watching close enough is C1X, or Circle 1 in regulation and Circle 2 in regulation. For Kevin Jones, 56 and 72%. For Nate Sexton, 28 and 67. So I think that staying on the fairway at the fort is important, but just as important is how close to the green are you getting so you can convert on those putts.
I mean, and you look at Kevin Jones' scorecard, and he has 1, 2, 3... 4, 5 birdies where his putt didn't matter because he was 5 feet from the basket. Mm-hmm. And you look at Nate Sexton's scorecard, and he has none of those. He had to hit a putt from outside 15 feet every single time he had a birdie. And those stats, that's the thing about them. You talk about Circle 1, Circle 2, percentage of putts. The thing is, if you park it and you tap it in, that doesn't go to those stats. That's easy money. But that's where you can get those low pressure birdies as opposed to have to constantly work for the long range stuff, which inevitably you're not going to hit every single one of those. It's not going to happen.
Well, and I think that proves and kind of tells the tale of why maybe Nate dropped off at the end, is it becomes exhausting. It's a long round. It's an arduous round. And so if you're not saving your energy for the end because you're having to make early putts, then that might be a big reason that Nate cooled off so quick.
All right, so we got a chance also to talk with Paige Pierce after her round today. She's one stroke back of Catrina. Once again, built a lead and gave it back. There was a spot she was up by 3 strokes, and then over the course of 2 holes, she went bogey. Catrina Allen went birdie, and bam, just like that, Catrina Allen back in front. Here's what Paige Pierce had to say after her round today.
All right, Paige, so 5 under through the round. How did you feel for the round today?
I felt pretty good today. It was, going into the day, I was hoping for more like a 9 or a 10, but getting here, it was a little bit windier, so I tried to take that expectation out of the window and just kind of go with what happened. Couple errors out there, but overall, I feel good.
Good. So yesterday had a rough round at the fort. What got in your head? What was it that kind of contributed to that round?
There was lots of people, lots of cameras, and I chose to let it distract me instead of excite me, it was just kind of a mindset thing, and I couldn't shake it. It was something where, after the round, I can be logical and be like, oh man, this is a good thing that there's so many cameras and people, and who cares if they're moving or making noise, this is what we want. We want the sport to grow, and in the moments it was hard for me to shake, and I just kept, getting distracted and not really focusing. So, it was nice to come out, have the afternoon to kind of process it, get through it, and realize, what a position I'm in, and to, really just soak this up and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Do you feel like you're ready to go for the next round? I mean, you're back at the fort. Do you think you've cleared your head of those distractions?
Yeah, I am ready, but I think, I'm glad that it's not until tomorrow. I think that it's hard to sleep on a lead. So I actually like the position I'm in. It's hard to fall asleep thinking, okay, it's in my hands. I've been in that position before, and I do not envy it. So, I don't ever want to be in second place, but I am pretty content with where I am, and I'm happy to get up tomorrow morning and, give it another crack.
Well, best of luck tomorrow, Paige. Thanks so much.
Paige Pierce after her round. Well, I mean, is that just Paige telling herself that she, wants to be where she is? I mean, I don't think that I would want to be a stroke back heading into the final round. What do you think?
She clarifies, I never want to be in second place, but it's kind of it was what she said, and like you said, she cannot have wanted to shoot a 10 under par at Mulligan's and also wanted to be in second place. Those two things can't exist in the same world. So, I think maybe a little bit to an extent she's convincing herself. But look, we've had both 5-time world champs on the show today, and both of them have told us that the nerves got to them, and that's why they've had bad rounds at the fort or slow starts at the fort. And so if Paige needs to tell herself the second place is where she wants to be, then maybe that does the trick for her tomorrow.
Paige was out watching the chase card and kind of rooting for James Conrad, and looked very relaxed, to be honest, this afternoon. Just hanging out, not looking stressed at all. We heard from Catrina Allen at the end of the broadcast, and she talked about, just being happy to be in a position to compete tomorrow for a championship. And who has more pressure on them in your mind between those two?
That's such a hard question, Charlie. I think I'm probably going to say Paige, but only because she does it to herself. I think a lot of Paige's pressure is just this self-created pressure. I think, however, Catrina has the external pressure of the questions about the putting and so I think that's kind of something that's applied to Catrina. And I think that type of pressure may play a big difference, that Catrina's out here feeling like she wants to prove something, whereas Paige and this internal pressure of going for 6 may be a bit more destructive and distracting. So that they both have a lot of pressure. I think the types of pressure may play an important role, though, going into tomorrow's round about who can settle in the quickest.
I mean, it's just going to be so fun to watch tomorrow. And by the way, if you haven't been watching live because you don't have a subscription, it's going to be free on YouTube tomorrow. So we're going to see some numbers on the broadcast, I imagine. I think it's hard to predict, even at this point, what's going to happen. I mean, with Catrina having a 1-stroke lead, obviously that's great, but she didn't putt great out here at the fort, but neither did Paige. But we've also seen Paige get into big lead positions Now, here's the question. If she gets into a 3 or 4 stroke lead tomorrow, like she did in round 3 and today, she can maybe start to play differently. Instead of thinking about, I need to keep attacking, she might be able to slow down and say, all right, I'm going to play for par on this hole. I'm going to play it safe on this hole. And, I mean, through the middle of the course, this Fort course, there's just some holes where you have to be willing to deal with hitting a tree because there's just not really a line that's super obvious, and you're probably going to have bad breaks. And the player, here's the thing that I really, when I come down to thinking about how do you predict, the players that deal with the adversity better tomorrow, because there will be adversity. There will be bogeys. I don't expect to see a clean sheet from our winner. Whoever deals with that better will walk away the champion.
Paul McBeth bogeyed hole number 2 that is less than 200 feet. I mean, granted, there's some challenge to it, but Charlie, I throw that hole and I can park it. So it is a mental game there. Paul McBeth still was able to turn it around, and I think that bodes really well for him. But I think, he said in his interview he needs to settle down and come out clean tomorrow morning. I think that's true because there's going to be additional pressure, and if he doesn't do it early, I think it'll take longer tomorrow to settle in than it did today. And so I think that dealing with adversity is important, but also how quickly they do it is also going to be important as well.
Well, here we are. We're at the end. And it's been an incredibly exciting week so far, and it's just every day it ramps up more. Walking, being on 18 today and seeing the stands pretty much full just makes me think about what it's going to be like tomorrow. And wow, it's going to be special to be out here. And don't forget, we haven't had a World Championships in 2 years. This is a big one. People have been thinking about this since we got through Peoria in 2019. And wow, I mean, I'm excited. And in our subscriber bonus segment for our subscribers, we're going to talk about our downright actual predictions. We're going to make our updated picks. Obviously, our original picks still stand, but we're going to talk about who we think is going to actually win tomorrow. So we hope you'll join us for that. You can become a subscriber at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. We have a quick couple of speaker requests, though, so I want to get those in before we sign it off. Let's see. We're going to go ahead. I'm never sure if these are trolls or actual listeners, so we're going to find out. Let's bring in at TBF Maka.
Hello?
Yeah, hey, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can do. What's up?
What's your question? What you got? What you got for us?
Can I make a question about
Gone. We're getting trolled.
How are you getting trolled? Hey, who's Smarkhead?
He's gone. If you want a request, we're still taking requests. I'm looking for people that look like real people, and you never know out here on Twitter Spaces. I've learned this. So if you want to jump in before we sign off, we'll try one more here. AJ, you're on the Upshot.
Hello.
Hi there. What's up, AJ? What do you want to say?
What do you think of Rory McIlroy?
a good troll. Rory McIlroy, I'd love to see him play some disc golf. He's watched some disc golf. I know that. He was on Instagram talking about it.
Yeah, I really don't care. Justice for Maca. You shouldn't have kicked them.
Goodbye. See, there's a thing, like, these people from the UK come on and, like, troll Twitter Spaces. So let's see who else we got in here. I don't trust any of these people, to be honest. I don't trust any of these people. We got Brodie Smith. You know what, Brodie? I'm going to invite you in. Let's see if Brodie wants to come in. Brodie has been certainly a center of attention this week around the driving range thing, and then we've had ongoing conversations about this. We'll see if Brodie wants to jump in. I at least offered it to him, and always one who was willing to speak his mind. So Brodie's connecting. Hang on. Brodie, you're with us. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
What's going on, Brodie? How are you?
I'm chilling. How are you doing?
Well, we're doing pretty good. How's your world's experience?
I didn't get a question from you at the press conference. I felt like I was the only one.
Well, so here's what happened. The reason that I couldn't get any in, my flight took off right at the end of the press conference, and you must have been late in the show, right?
I don't know. People after me got all two questions, so I felt a little left out. It's all right, though.
Well, we're glad to ask you some questions right now. How's your world's been so far?
I've been playing pretty bad, so that's unfortunate.
Well, okay, I want to get your thoughts on the PDGA situation. Obviously, you've been putting out some stuff on Twitter and Instagram already, but where do you feel like things stand after you spent $1,000 of your own money to rent out the driving range, and then there's been sort of ongoing stuff. We heard, you clipped something from Justin Menichelli, the president of the board of the PDGA, who called you a jerk. Where are things right now with you and with the PDGA?
Like, personally?
Sure.
I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't talked to anyone, so I have no idea. I don't have any personal relationships with anyone at the PDGA, nor should I, really.
Do you think that it would be better if you did? Because I feel like, you heard it from Menichelli. They seem frustrated by the way that you've kind of approached these issues this week. Do you think
because I've exposed them that they're not able to run an event properly?
It's a fair point. I bet we've been here. We talked about it on the show.
Here's what I said. I have probably encountered 20 or 30 pros that have said that they have been sending emails and trying to get stuff done over the last 5 to 10 years, and nothing ever happens. And so the notion, it's not surprising that the PDGA comes out and says, like, oh, Brodie should have handled this differently. He should have come and found people to talk to. He should have sent an email. He should have told us all this stuff. Because that way no one hears about it. No one knows what's going on, and then they're able to basically just ignore it. So I think there's a lot of pros that are in really tough situations, right, where their livelihood solely depends on the disc golf fans that they have. And them coming out and saying something is going to kind of ruffle maybe some feathers, and they would actually maybe lose some money doing that. So I completely understand how a lot of professionals want to keep quiet about it and not really have a public stance. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of people that have come out. Like, numerous people have come out. Eagle just had a long thing on Instagram, and others have tweeted stuff and commented stuff, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So people, I think, are starting to get more comfortable with coming out and actually saying how they actually feel. But I probably have been approached by 50 plus people that are very excited with what's happening right now because they have felt ignored for years.
So I think it's safe to say that the PDGA is out of chances with what they can do to fix and resolve the issues that have come up here at Worlds. So my question then for you would be, what would be the best solution that the PDGA can offer, or not even solution, but best next step from the PDGA in the weeks following the World Championship to address this crisis?
The first, I don't know. I don't work for the PDGA. I don't know what they should do next. But I don't think how they handled the situation was probably the best thing, because the whole situation could have been just completely finished if they would have said, hey, listen, we messed up. We didn't actually ask to get the driving range. Sorry if some people lied and said that we did. We didn't ask that. We apologize. That was our mistake. And we see now that we messed up. We got the driving range, and we apologize, and we're going to try to do better. And if they just did that, I think a lot of people would have been happy, and it probably would have gone away. The problem is, obviously, a lot of other stuff is popping up. But it just seems like they're kind of doubling down on certain things. And it's just not, I don't know. I just think a lot of pros are kind of fed up with it. And then, from a spectator/fans perspective, seeing the governing body that's supposed to kind of help push disc golf to the next level kind of go about it this way, I don't know if people are very excited about it.
So, the PDGA has tried to be responsive to some of these issues, but it feels like a lot has been a little bit late, a little bit mishandled. They go out and they paint the lines, the OB lines, but then, players aren't notified by email, and then people are getting frustrated by the fact that, shots that would have been in bounds in the earlier rounds at Mulligan's are now out of bounds. We saw it today with a shot from Paige Pierce out at Mulligan's. Do you think? I mean, they seem like they're trying to step up and resolve some of the issues, but how do you feel about the way that they've handled it?
I would say the only time they do that is when they're getting called out publicly about it. I've been told that Ricky had a long conversation after one of the rounds at the Utah Open. I believe it was the round that Nico had and this is on coverage, where they had like a good 5 or 10 minute conversation trying to figure out if Nico's disc was in or out on the bunkers. And I was told by someone that Ricky went straight to the TD afterwards and let him know, like, hey, this is going to be a problem. We need to do something about this. So it's like, I think the problem is like tons of stuff is happening. You know, like I mentioned that the bathrooms were an issue at Mulligan's, right? In my live stream. I didn't do this like in a big post or anything. I just was talking about stuff I saw the first round at Mulligan's. And I said, I think the FPO are going to have a real issue with the bathrooms because, you know, I have the ability, and I'm lucky enough to just kind of go into a side fence and, you know, try to like conceal myself as much as possible to use the restroom. But they had 2 porta potties that could only be accessed on like 3 holes on the entire 18-hole course at Mulligan's.
That is true.
So, like, again, like, this is something that it's just something that, like, I just don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing here. And it's not anything that's going to get taken care of unless, like, someone comes out and says, hey, we need more bathrooms. And I think just a lot of players are at the point of, like, why are we having to tell people what the tournament should be run? And I'll give you a quick little story that I got, because I've gotten tons of DMs and messages and all this stuff about everything. One of them that stood out the most was probably like a college age student, I would say, somewhere in that age, said he invited his dad out to Mulligan's round 1 to watch the World Championships. His dad had never watched disc golf before, but was an avid sports fan. His dad left by saying that was one of the worst sports events that he's ever been to. It was fascinating to watch the pros play and saw the skill level, and it was amazing. And he said the pros deserve better. That is coming from someone that has never seen disc golf before. And that is at a tournament that is supposed to be the most prestigious and highest tournament in disc golf.
So, I mean, obviously.
I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, I listen. These issues, we talked about it on the show a couple days ago. It's been a problem. It absolutely has been a problem. There have been a bunch of things that should have been handled before the event that were not, and almost for inexplicable reasons that are now cropping up into issues during the event. And then, you know, you're trying to change the course with the OB lines in the middle of the thing, and it's just. I know they're trying, but it certainly, to me, this is just emblematic of the issues of having local organizers predominantly handling, you know, major championships that are under the PDGA banner, and there has to be more oversight with an event staff whose job it is to come out and help run these events meaningfully, not just the week of the event, but months, 6 months, maybe even years in advance.
To me, though, like, I get where you're. It's hard for me to think that they're actually trying, though, because, again, this is my first Worlds. It is not their first Worlds. It's not their 5th Worlds. It's not their 10th Worlds. I mean, how many times have they done this? So the notion of, like, they're trying, it's like there should already be, like, a formula of, like, all the things we need to check off. Like, hey, do we have a bathroom that you can access 1 out of every 3 holes?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Sweet. Do we have water on 1 out of every 4 holes? Yes. Got it. Sweet. Like, there should be, like, checklists of just things like, hey, there's a driving range. It's going to probably be really, really awkward and weird if spectators show up and see pros throwing into a net when there's a driving range. That was my whole thing, is like, a lot of people came at me with the driving range being like, oh, Worlds in 2018 didn't have a driving range. MVP, when you play that, it doesn't have a driving range. This course, when you play that, and it's like, that's fine. We'll deal with throwing in a net. I had no problem throwing in a net at Jonesboro. But it didn't have a driving range right there for us. And that's the problem, is like, it's the optics. If you're a spectator and you show up and you see a pro throwing into a net from 30 feet away, your question is going to be, hey, why is he throwing into a net? Why isn't he throwing like down the driving range? And if someone turns to you and goes, oh, it's because the organization didn't want to pay the money to rent out the driving range. Like, what is your first, like, that's your first reaction to a world championship?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's true, and I think there are event standards that are expected, and sometimes maybe those aren't getting met. And I think the problem is the PDGA doesn't always enforce the things that need to get enforced. And I also think that some of the event standards maybe are things that were kind of put in place 5 to 10 years ago, and the sport has changed a lot, and the level of expectations has changed a lot over the last couple of seasons. And so I'll have to ask you about this before we let you go. Yeah. We've been hearing some buzz that, players are starting to get to the point where they want to have some sort of collective action on this issue. Do you expect to see something like that?
I think it's one of those things where, like, this is, my response to Eagles, Instagram Live, where he came out and said, hey, changing up the course the night before, and then, we get to the course and we get notified, 30 seconds before we tee off, hey guys, there's new OB lines painted. We don't know where those are. We don't, it wasn't until I got to the green of hole 1 that I saw that that one was spray painted out. Some of them had string in the bunkers. Some were spray painted on the outside. So my response to Eagles Instagram was like, things start getting really messed up when you start messing with people's livelihood. 5-10 years ago, there was probably not that many people that their sole income was because of disc golf and being on tour and touring. More and more players now are starting to make their career, disc golf, strictly playing disc golf. And so when you start tweaking things and doing things and stuff like this, and these are these people's jobs, it gets a little bit different than if it's a hobby. Like if I paid X amount of dollars to go to an amusement park and it wasn't the greatest experience ever, I'm not going to be the end of the world. But like if I go to my job and all of a sudden something happens to where my job has now changed drastically, or someone comes to me and says, hey, we just decided that we have to, pay you 10% less this year. Like, these are all things that are going to really affect my life. And so I think you're starting to see that with a lot of these pros. It's like, hey, I am sacrificing so much to try to make it on tour and try to make this happen. And if I feel like the PDGA isn't supporting that or doing things to make that harder, I really start, you really start to see like people actually coming out and speaking out about it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing is the course is still, everybody plays the same course. And,
sure.
The OB changed a little bit, but a lot of times people were in positions where maybe they were just barely in bounds, but it's not where they want to be anyway. So yeah. I don't know. It feels a little bit to me, and I completely understand Eagle's point, and I understand that people don't like to see the course change midway through. But if Eagle had shot a better round, does he go on Instagram Live and complain about it?
Yeah, I think I definitely think it hits the people that it affected, obviously, right? The people that it never affected probably don't say anything about it or just kind of brush it off. But at the same time, it's setting precedent. If we're allowing at a world championship for them to come in and do that, what's stopping the next thing? It's just the whole notion of like if they're allowed to kind of go in and change something up like that.
I mean, that's certainly not what's supposed to happen. I think they were trying to get to the players' concerns about the lack of lines, but I mean, it certainly raises questions about why it didn't happen in the first place.
This was discussed.
I know.
This was discussed in the tournament prior.
I know.
Yeah, this was discussed by players prior to the tournament starting this week. This was discussed by people in tournament and other organizations and stuff saying, hey, this is a real issue. And, it's tough, man. It is a weird, because I'm in a weird spot because I don't really know what the heck is going on or what I should be expecting. but I'm trying to take it from like, well, what would another sport look like if it was a world championship? You know, ultimate frisbee. I've played in a decent amount of big events in ultimate frisbee, and I feel like there's stuff that's done there that is a little bit different than what's going on here. And so I'm just trying to take it all into account. And, you know, it's tough, man. It's a weird situation. It's a weird situation. It sucks a little bit too, because right now, like, this is really exciting to watch. Like, there's an absolute battle in both. Obviously, FPO, it's really between two people. But on the NPO side, I mean, there's like 6 or 7 guys that can win it tomorrow, which is fascinating. And with like the last couple.
Oh, did we lose Brodie? Did we lose you, Brodie? Well, I think maybe we lost Brodie. If he drops back in, I mean, I would love to hear his picks. But maybe it's too late at this point. But he's right. It's been an absolute battle, Josh. And it's, you know, I said we weren't going to talk about this again, but here we are. And it's honestly, it's popped back up over the last couple days with what we heard from Justin Minichelli on a podcast, the PDGA board president, talking about Brodie. And it's kind of continued. And it looks like maybe we have Brodie back. So, Brodie, we'd love to get your take on the competition.
Sorry,
yes, we can. All good. You're back. We would love to.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. We want to hear your picks for tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I said if Paul could get on the lead card, I thought he could. I thought he had a shot to win. The fact that he's now coming in with a 1-shot lead, it's tough for me to go against him. Especially the way he's been playing. And I think, too, like, his putt was really off the last couple rounds, and that really cost him a lot of strokes. And it seemed like he kind of found it a little bit today. So it'd be hard for me to go up against him. But I would say James Conrad is probably going to give him the... I would say James Conrad's going to probably give him the run for his play.
And what about the FPO side?
Now that's the other side of the coin. I thought if Paige could somehow get a decent lead going into the fort tomorrow, she'd probably be able to just play conservative and kind of and you know, smart and take it pretty easily. But the fact that Kat now, you know, playing well out at Mulligan's has a 1-shot lead, I think Kat will be able to kind of put a little pressure on Paige. And this course is one of those courses that trying to gain strokes can get you in trouble. So if you have the ability of like playing hard holes for pars, or if you get out of position, not having to try to like, you know, be okay with like, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice a bogey here. If you have to be pressing and trying to get birdies, that's where you can kind of take some big numbers out here. So I think that battle between the two is going to be absolutely fascinating. I think it's going to come down to hole 18. And I think it's going to come down to the second shot.
I mean, it really does feel like it's going to come down to 18. Well, Brodie, thanks so much for stopping by. And
of course,
it's you've certainly been a topic of conversation this week around the World Championship. So appreciate it, Brodie.
Hey, yeah, the hope of everything is like moving forward, whatever ends up happening, you know, everything for disc golf starts getting better. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Brodie Smith with us here on
Take care.
The Upshot. Thank you, Brodie. All right. And that's gonna do it. I mean, we're getting up on to almost an hour here. You got one last thing to go, Josh?
Yeah, we got one more shout out that we need. Well, two really.
We do. Thank you for remembering.
Two shout outs that we really need to make. First one, if you've been watching the live coverage or the post coverage, you should have been able to see it. The spotters on hole 18 have been exceptional. Grabbing their flags, running across the fairway, making sure every spectator, every fan, every player gets to see it. Those guys are hype, and it is awesome to see.
Patrick is the man. He's like the hype guy who runs the flag behind the college football end zone when somebody scores a touchdown, and he just goes out in the middle of the fairway. And he said to us, we went up and said hello, and he said to us, I'm just trying to get the energy up out here. And he certainly was. It was awesome. Also, shout out to Noel, who is the champion of crowd control out there. Spectators trying to get out of line, Noelle's not having any of it. Spectators trying to go somewhere they're not supposed to, Noelle's not having any of it. And she's just... There has been big questions, will there be enough crowd control? The fort has a lot of holes very close to each other, and I think it will be a challenge tomorrow to corral the probably 1,400 people that are going to be here around this course. But honestly, now that I've seen Noelle out there, I think they're going to be able to do it.
They say things like events like this are trying like herding cats. I'd tell you that Noelle probably could do it with ease.
No problem. So shout out to Patrick, shout out to Noelle. Lots of volunteers out here helping make this event happen. Well, it all comes down to tomorrow. We're going to have new world champions. Maybe they're going to be 6X. Maybe they're going to be 1X. Maybe they're going to be somewhere in between. But it's going to be super fun to watch. Again, the live coverage will be free. You don't want to miss it. I mean, come on. What are you doing? It's Saturday. You can play disc golf on Sunday, okay? Saturday, you need to sit down, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. FPO coverage begins, and it's going to roll through all the way into the evening, and it's going to be can't miss TV. So we'll be back tomorrow after the final round with more of a breakdown here on the Upshot. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, subscribers, we're going to go make our picks in the subscriber bonus segment, so look for that. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on the Upshot.